The financial secrets the rich never share. Have you ever stopped to wonder why some people manage to get rich even while earning very little, while others spend their whole lives making good money and still end up broke? No, it's not luck. And it's not just talent either. It's something no one ever taught you. Not in school, not at work, not even at home. These are simple but powerful financial secrets, closely guarded by those who benefit the most from you not knowing them. What no one tells you is that the rich play by a different set of rules. They don't work just for money. They make money work for them. While most people are struggling to make ends meet, they're quietly building wealth with smart habits, strategic decisions, and a mindset built on discipline. And here's the craziest part. You can do the same. Even if you're in debt right now, even if you think it's too late, even if you started from nothing, this video is for anyone who's tired of working hard and seeing little to no results. It's for those who want to break free from stagnation and build a life with clarity, freedom, and real choices. You won't hear any cliches or magical formulas here. You'll hear the truth that the top 3% live by quietly, while the other 97% stay stuck in financial autopilot. And what you'll learn here has the potential to flip the script on your entire financial story. But fair warning, once you hear this, you won't be able to pretend you don't know anymore. There's no going back to the old way. Because once your mind expands with real knowledge, it can never shrink back to its original size. And if you stick with me until the end, you'll walk away with a practical, straightforward, and life-changing plan. Here's the raw truth, liberating but tough. While most people are out chasing money like it's some distant prize within a maze, the few who truly thrive, the top 3%, understand that the real key lies in a wealth mindset. It's not about winning the lottery or inheriting a fortune. It's about building a millionaire mindset, a long-term strategic vision based on financial education, self-discipline, and habits that are simple but extremely effective. While some say, I'm just not lucky, others say, I have a plan. And that changes everything. A lot of people think financial success comes from some lucky break, a surprise promotion, or a genius idea no one thought of before. But that's not how it really works. Jim Rohn used to say, success leaves clues, and those clues are hidden in the little details of everyday life, in the choices you make when no one's watching. When you realize that financial freedom isn't a one-time event but a process, you start to see that your mindset needs just as much work as your resume. Personal growth is a conscious investment. Self-development is the foundation of wealth. It's not magic, it's method. You know that feeling of always chasing, but never quite getting there? It usually comes from not having a financial plan and lacking a clear picture of where you are and where you're going. The 97% live stuck in debt, often because of impulsive decisions and a lack of ongoing education. Meanwhile, the 3% are building multiple income streams. They don't rely on a single paycheck because they understand that standing on one leg isn't sustainable. They study passive income, learn financial intelligence, know how to save, and have a strategy, not desperation, to get out of debt. It's like there are two parallel worlds. One where people live for the thrill of now, buying whatever they want and paying for it later, with interest. And another where every choice is a conscious decision. In that second world, there's an unshakable commitment to the future. Saving isn't about deprivation. It's about freedom. And once you get that, you realize that every smart sacrifice you make today opens a door tomorrow. What feels like restriction now becomes independence later. The difference is in the mindset, in how you see things. Those 3% weren't born knowing all this. They learned it. They got tired of watching money slip through their fingers and made the decision to change. They invested time, attention, and yes, a bit of patience to break the cycle. They read books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Richest Man in Babylon, and Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. They understand that true financial motivation doesn't come from inspiring videos. It comes from applying, adjusting, and staying consistent. But don't worry. Understanding this difference is just the beginning. There's a lot more coming that'll flip a switch in your mind. How many times have you heard someone say, that guy got rich because he was lucky? Or worse yet, that's not for people like us? That kind of mindset is a trap. It creates an invisible wall between you and financial freedom. What most people don't realize, and what Jim Rohn always taught, is that lasting wealth doesn't come from chance. It comes from financial planning combined with success mindset. It doesn't matter where you came from. What matters is how far you're willing to go. And to get there, you don't need a winning lottery ticket. You need a mental compass pointing toward daily discipline. Picture a bricklayer building a house. He doesn't lay all the bricks at once. He places them one by one, every single day, with consistency, not speed. Building wealth works the same way. What you do consistently matters far more than what you do occasionally. And that's exactly what wealthy people's habits are. Small actions repeated over and over, like pay yourself first, tracking your spending, and always keeping an eye on the long term. That's real financial education, not just book theory, but the kind of knowledge you feel in your wallet and see in your results. Some people think wealth is a privilege, but the real privilege is having access to the right information and doing nothing with it. Those who study, apply, and stick with it thrive. Want an example? Choosing to save just 10% of your income every month, even if it's a small amount, is way more powerful than trying to save a huge sum all at once. If you use your bank app to set up automatic transfers, that simple move becomes a habit, and over time, it turns into wealth. That's how a millionaire mindset is built. Not with big, flashy moves, but with small daily wins. It's funny how we often wait for some big change, like we need a miracle to turn our lives around. But the truth is, changing your routine is enough to change your reality. That coffee you skip every day could be invested. A 100 Brazilian Reals online course could teach you a new skill and open a new income stream. Financial motivation kicks in the moment you realize that the power has always been in your hands. The problem is, no one ever told you that. School doesn't teach it. Parents often don't know. And the system is counting on you never learning it. But now that you've seen what's behind the curtain, it's hard to unsee it. There's a path, a direction, a map that the top 3% follow. And it starts with something that seems small, but changes everything that comes next. Let's talk about one of the simplest and yet most ignored rules when it comes to building wealth. Paying yourself first. That's right, before the bills, the rent, the credit card, or even the groceries. Sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? But here's the secret. If you don't make yourself a priority, no one else will. When money comes in, the first slice needs to go to you. This isn't selfish. It's financial intelligence. Wealthy habits are built on the awareness that your future has to be fed by the money your present produces. Jim Rohn used to say, if you don't plant at the right time, you won't harvest later. Paying yourself is like planting seeds. You're setting aside part of your income for intentional investing, saving, or generating passive income. Whether it's $50 or $500 doesn't matter. What matters is a ritual. That money goes into a separate account, an investment fund, or a brokerage. If you don't know where to start, platforms like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Vanguard, or Robinhood are great places to begin, accessible and reliable. What you can't do is let your money slip into unconscious spending and then claim there's nothing left to save. So what happens if you don't pay yourself first? You get stuck in the never-ending loop of, I'll save when I can. And that day never comes. That's what traps the other 97%. Money comes in, and it's gone in a flash, with nothing to show for it. But the top 3% live by a different rule. I earn, I invest, and then I spend. That changes everything. What once felt scarce becomes a growing financial army working in your favor. A habit that, over time, builds freedom. It's the daily discipline that secures your future and quiets the anxiety of the present. Because it puts you in control. Here's how to start. Set up an automatic transfer from your paycheck. 10% goes straight into a separate account. If possible, make it one that's not so easy to access. Out of sight, out of temptation. This simple move is the first brick in your financial freedom. And hey, no one builds a castle overnight. But brick by brick, you can get there. If you want more clarity, use tools like Personal Capital or a NAB. You need a budget to track your growth. There's nothing like watching your money work for you, even while you sleep. And here's the most interesting part. When you start paying yourself first, you begin to feel more empowered. Your financial motivation goes up, your wealth mindset expands. And all of that gets you ready for the next big lesson. One that cuts right to the root of so many of your expenses. Understanding the difference between spending impulsively and spending intentionally. Spending money isn't the problem. The real issue is spending without thinking, on autopilot, just to satisfy a passing urge. It's that quick swipe of the card, the "I deserve it" at the end of a rough day, the impulsive click on a flash sale. Seems harmless, right? But those little actions are quietly stealing your financial freedom, 1 cent at a time. That's the emotional roller coaster the 97% live on. They spend to feel good, then feel guilty afterward. The 3%, on the other hand, have learned to spend with intention. Before they pull out their wallet, they ask, is this bringing me closer to my goals or pulling me further away? That kind of conscious decision-making changes everything. Here's a practical example. Before buying those new headphones or ordering takeout for the 4th time this week, stop and ask yourself, is this an investment or just temporary relief? This isn't about becoming some kind of financial monk. It's about taking back control. A wealth mindset means knowing when to say yes with intention and when to say no with wisdom. Wealthy people's habits include spending with purpose, not to fill an emotional void. They know exactly where their money is going because they know exactly where they want to go. That's where a tool that seems simple, but is actually powerful, comes in: a personal budget with real goals. Instead of just tracking expenses, use your budget to build awareness. With apps like Mint or NAB, you can set categories that align with your goals: travel fund, monthly investments, personal development courses. Every time you spend, you're clearly seeing what you're prioritizing. That transforms spending into something intentional, aligned with your long-term vision. Money stops being a burden and becomes a tool for freedom. Some people roll their eyes at this kind of budgeting. They say they don't want to live counting every penny. But here's the thing. Counting isn't limiting, it's liberating. Because if you're not paying attention, you won't notice that the pleasure of now might be sabotaging the dream of tomorrow. Delayed gratification isn't a sacrifice. It's a strategy. It's choosing to plant now so you can harvest abundance later. The 3% understand that. That's why they'd rather spend less today to buy time, peace, and options down the road. That's not deprivation. It's focused, clear-headed financial intelligence. And here's the interesting part. As you start learning to spend with intention, something amazing happens. You begin to feel proud of the choices you're making. And that pride fuels your financial motivation, strengthens your wealth mindset, and gets you ready for the next step. One that takes the effort out of your hands and puts the results into the hands of the system. The truth is tough, but it's also freeing. Relying on willpower alone is the slowest and most exhausting path to financial success. One day you're motivated, the next day you're tired, and that's it. Discipline slips, impulse takes over, and your plan falls apart. That's why the top 3% play a different game. They automate. They build financial systems that keep working even when their focus is off. Because they know consistency shouldn't rely on mood. It should rely on structure. And that's where the real power of financial automation lies. Imagine being able to invest, save, pay bills, and even donate automatically without having to remember or decide every time. That's already possible. And the wealthy take full advantage of it. Platforms like Fidelity, Vanguard, Wealthfront, or even Betterment let you set up automatic monthly contributions. You choose how much goes out and where it goes, and the system does the rest. That kind of built-in daily discipline allows even those with modest incomes to build long-term wealth over time. These systems are like train tracks. You lay the route and then let the train run. You no longer have to try to invest each month or remember to set money aside. A wealth mindset understands that the human brain gets tired, forgets, and makes mistakes, but tech doesn't. That's why simply automating a 10% transfer to your investment fund every time your paycheck hits already puts you light years ahead of most people. The 97% rely on "I'll try." The 3% rely on "it's already set." And the best part? This applies to way more than just money. You can create systems for everything. Daily reading time for a finance book, a weekly review of your goals, reminders to track your spending using apps like Personal Capital or Tiller. All of this can be systemized with alerts, routines, tools, and reminders. Because here's the thing, your brain was made to create not to carry every little decision day in and day out. When you delegate the operational stuff, you free up mental energy for what truly matters: personal growth and smart decision-making. And just like that, your life begins to shift quietly. The habits stick, your account grows, the results show up, not because of some big breakthrough, but because you build a solid foundation. And that leads us to the next step: tracking every dollar with sharp eyes and a clear mind, so you don't lose control of the road you've worked so hard to pave. You can't manage what you don't measure. It's a simple phrase, but brutally true. What do the 97% do? They guess where their money went. The top 3%? They know exactly where every cent is because they make clarity a habit. And clarity, my friend, is power. Tracking your expenses might seem boring at first, but it's the map that reveals where your financial freedom is slipping through the cracks. Once you start facing your numbers head-on, there's no more room for illusion, just conscious action and real financial planning. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Use simple tools like Mint, Pocket Guard, or a NAB. You need a budget. These apps connect to your bank accounts, categorize your spending automatically, and show you in real time where your money is going. But if you're more of a pen and paper type, a notebook or a Google Sheet works just as well. The tool doesn't matter. It's the habit that counts. This daily discipline is what separates those who live in the dark from those with full control in the palm of their hand. What's interesting is, once you start tracking your spending, you naturally begin to spend more wisely. It's like just writing it down makes you more aware. And that awareness becomes a success mindset. You start to notice you're spending 300 Brazilian reals a month on takeout without realizing it, or that your harmless little coffee has become a hidden drain on your budget. These are the tiny leaks that, left unchecked, keep many people from lasting wealth. But once you see them, they become points of adjustment that can completely shift your financial direction. With financial clarity, you can make smarter decisions with more confidence. Want to cut back? Cut with a plan. Want to invest more? Find the fat in your budget. And here's the best part: you'll start setting clear goals. For example, if you realize you're spending 1,500 Brazilian reals a month on entertainment, you can redirect 500 Brazilian reals of that toward intentional investing. Do that month after month, and you're building real wealth. It's like a chess game, and tracking your spending is what lets you see the board clearly. Now that you've got that clarity, a new level opens up, because knowing where your money goes is just the first step. The next, learning when not to use it, even when you have it. That's about training one of the rarest muscles in personal finance: the power of delayed gratification. This might be one of the biggest lessons in financial education, and also one of the hardest to put into practice. Delayed gratification is almost a superpower in a world where everything is expected now. Most people want instant pleasure: the brand new phone, the vacation paid in installments, the sneakers that cost half their paycheck. But the top 3%, they train their minds to look beyond the immediate desire. They understand that delaying gratification isn't about suffering. It's about strategy. It's planting today to harvest abundance tomorrow. While others spend to look rich, they wait to become truly wealthy. Let's be real. Resisting temptation isn't easy. The store notification pops up, the credit card is right there in your pocket, and your brain screams just this once. But every time you say no to now, you're saying yes to your future. And that, my friend, is the foundation of a millionaire mindset. Skipping that expensive dinner today could mean one more investment tomorrow. Holding on to your car for 5 years instead of 3 could save you thousands. It's about trading the immediate for the important. And that trade-off changes everything. Jim Rohn always spoke about the value of self-control. It's not about living a miserable life. It's about living a purposeful one. The top 3% know exactly what they're giving up and why. They're not skipping purchases just out of discipline. They have a success mindset that's focused on bigger goals: passive income, multiple income streams, total financial independence. And because of that, even their sacrifices feel meaningful, because they're temporary. They're stepping stones. Want to start applying this today? Try the 10-day rule. Whenever you feel like buying something non-essential, wait 10 days. If you still want it after that, go ahead. But most of the time, the impulse disappears. Another idea: swap emotional spending for personal growth. Instead of dropping 200 Brazilian reals on clothes you don't really need, invest in books like Mind Over Money or The Intelligent Investor. Trade anxiety for wisdom. That's financial motivation in action. And here's the best part. The more you master the self-control, the freer you feel. Over time, delaying doesn't feel like sacrifice anymore. It feels like power. And once you have that power, you're ready for something even bigger. No longer depending on a single paycheck and starting to build a life supported by multiple financial pillars. Living with only one source of income is like walking across a rope bridge over a canyon. Any strong gust of wind can knock you off. The 97% are taught from a young age to rely on a single paycheck, and that's why they live in a constant state of vulnerability. The top 3%, though, understand the value of income diversification. They know true wealth requires stability, and stability comes from multiple pillars. When you have several income streams, you sleep peacefully, not because the world is stable, but because your foundation is solid. And that's one of the most powerful forms of financial freedom. But don't worry, you don't need to start a business today or buy 10 properties tomorrow. Building multiple income streams starts small, but with vision. A simple side hustle, like teaching online, selling digital products, or offering consulting in something you know well, is already a great first step. Then comes passive income, investing in dividend-paying stocks like Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, or Procter & Gamble, real estate funds, or REITs in the U.S. The key is understanding that while you work for money, your money can and should work for you too. Want a practical example? Let's say you invest $200 a month in dividend-paying stocks. At first, it doesn't look like much, but over time, with consistency, it becomes extra income that flows in effortlessly. Add to that an online course you created and a blog that brings in ad revenue, and suddenly your life is supported by 3 legs instead of just one. That's smart financial planning. That's structured wealth building. The top 3% build this kind of income ecosystem slowly, but with intention. And the difference shows when a crisis hits, and they stay standing. Here's the key point. Having multiple sources of income isn't just about earning more. It's about feeling secure. When a client leaves, a contract ends, or your paycheck is late, you don't panic, because you've got another gear turning. That gives you choices, peace of mind, and most importantly, freedom to take bigger risks. And that's when you really start playing the game of those who think big and act strategically. Now that you understand how to build a solid foundation, it's time to strengthen your mind, because no amount of money survives in unprepared hands. And the wealthy know that better than anyone. That's why they feed their minds with knowledge every day, like watering the tree that will hold up everything in the future. If there's one thing the wealthy do every single day, without exception, it's learning. They know lasting wealth starts in the mind, long before it shows up in your bank account. And here's a truth that might just set you free. School didn't teach you about money, because that was never the plan. If you really want to change your life, you're going to have to seek it out yourself. And that's where daily self-education comes in, the silent fuel of a millionaire mindset. Jim Rohn used to say, formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. And no, you don't have to study for hours. Just 10 to 15 minutes a day with focus. A book, a video, an article. What matters is consistency, not volume. A book like The Richest Man in Babylon can completely shift how you see money. Rich Dad, Poor Dad can open your eyes to the value of assets. The Psychology of Money shows how behavior impacts your finances even more than technical knowledge. That's the kind of financial education that transforms. And the best part is, you can start today for free. If you prefer videos, follow YouTube channels like Ramit Sethi, Graham Stephan, or Minority Mindset. Prefer podcasts? Check out Bigger Pockets, The Money Guy Show, or Afford Anything. The key is to keep your mind plugged into people who are already where you want to be. Because when you consistently expose yourself to a success mindset, your brain rewires itself. Over time, you start thinking differently, acting differently, and getting different results. Personal growth and financial growth go hand in hand. And this kind of knowledge doesn't just help you avoid mistakes. It helps you make smarter, more informed decisions. When you understand how an index fund works, how passive income is built, how compound interest grows, you stop being a passenger and start driving your financial life. It's like trading a blindfold for a magnifying glass. You see further, spot opportunities you never noticed before, and more importantly, you stop depending on luck. Because now you've got strategy, clarity, and direction. And here's something else. The more you learn, the more you'll feel like teaching. Because real abundance isn't about keeping everything to yourself. It's about sharing what you've discovered. And that, you'll see, is what turns a financial path into a real legacy. If there's one thing the top 3% truly understand, it's this. Real success is measured only by what you achieve, but by what you leave behind. There's no point in accumulating money and knowledge if it all dies with you. What really builds a lasting legacy is what you share. And no, you don't need to be a billionaire for that. You just need to decide that your journey won't end with you. When you teach someone to pay themselves first, when you help someone get out of debt, or when you recommend a book that changed your mindset, you're spreading wealth through awareness. And that makes you grow even more. Yes, teaching is learning twice. When you explain what's working for you, your wealth mindset becomes stronger. You commit more. You start to see yourself as a role model. And guess what? That pushes you to act with even more discipline. That's the power of accountability, shared responsibility. And this applies to everything. Teaching your kids about saving and budgeting, showing a friend how automation works, or helping a colleague set up their first financial plan. One of the most common mistakes people make when they start to succeed is thinking they need to isolate themselves to protect their secret. But the truly wealthy know, the more you share, the stronger your foundation becomes. A great example? Start a WhatsApp or Telegram group with friends to swap tips on smart investing or passive income. Or launch a YouTube channel, a blog, or even just an Instagram page to share what you're learning. It helps others, and it transforms you into someone even more aware and disciplined. And here's the thing, when you share, you attract. You attract mentors, opportunities, partnerships. You become part of an ecosystem of people who think big and act with intention. That accelerates your growth faster than any course. Because now you have a community. And that pulls you out of financial loneliness. That dark place where so many people live, unsure where to start with no support or direction. When you teach, you become a light on someone else's path. And that's a kind of wealth that's truly priceless. One more thing. When you share, you're laying the groundwork for the next generation. Your kids, your nieces and nephews, your friends, and even strangers will benefit from choices you're making today. That's more than success, that's legacy. But for any of this to really work, you need to stop living in wait-and-see mode. It's time to build your own structure. Because as you've already learned, relying on motivation alone is never enough. Remember, wealth isn't built on luck. It's built on decisions. And from today on, every choice you make either brings you closer to the life you want or keeps you stuck in the cycle you say you want to break. The question is, how much longer? You already have the knowledge. Now all that's left is action. If this content spoke to you, if it hit home in any way, drop a comment below and share what impacted you the most and what action you'll take in the next 7 days. That's right. Write it down, commit to it, take the first step. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is just the beginning of a journey that can completely change how you see money, success, and freedom. After all, you're not here by accident.